All right, welcome to Cwic Show. My name is Greg Mattson. I am your host. In this episode, we are talking about Whoopi and the Canadian trucker convoy. Something happened, I believe this was on the same day, where race was used in two different ways. One was by Whoopi Goldberg on The View. We're going to look at an excerpt from that episode of The View, where she basically says that the Holocaust was not about race. And then interestingly, again, I think it was the same day, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister for Canada, comes out and uses the few Confederate flags that were flying in the trucker convoy against the COVID mandates, and uses race in a very different way than Whoopi Goldberg does. And here's what happens. Whoopi Goldberg is going to diminish race as much as possible, which sounds odd, except that it is Jewish. And for her, she's going to diminish that, and she's not even going to count it as race. And then for Justin Trudeau, he is going to amplify these few flags and try and show and basically hang this around all of the movement of the truckers in against the COVID mandates in Canada. So quickly, let's just go to these two things. I'm going to do a little bit of commentary on this. I want you to see how race is used by two people on the left and how they use it differently in the same day.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race.
Okay, so she's going to go on here and tell Joy Behar that it's about humanity against humanity, and it's just purely about evil. She does not want to include the Jewish people as a group. This is what it actually is, right? She doesn't want to include them as a group in the group of intersectionality. They're not a group that deserves victimhood, in a sense, as ridiculous as that sounds. And even when she's going to go and give her apology to Stephen Colbert on the Colbert Show that night, which is very bizarre, it's the same thing. There's really no apology there. She wants to show that this is not about race because it's, as she puts it, white people on white people, right? The Nazis against the Jews. So for her, the Jews are not a race, and they are not only not a race, but they're white. And so we get into this really nebulous area of race and what it means and what it is. Remember, according to critical race theory, and you're going to hear this from Stephen Colbert, race is a social construct. So it has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has nothing to do with your physical being. It has to do with ethnicity. That's what they'll tell you. It's very, very similar to what they try to do with sex, as in biological sex, and gender, and separate these two things, right? In the end, they're just trying to create certain groups and of intersectionality. And it's very obvious to me here that Whoopi Goldberg does not want to include the Jews in one of those groups in intersectionality. Let's keep going here.
Man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but
going
it's
after
not, it's
Jews
not about
and
race. But these are two
Romans.
white groups of people.
Well, they would have to black people
see them as white people.
But you're missing the point. You're missing.
Okay. Of course, everyone's missing the point. See what she's saying there. So, again, if we go back to the idea of critical race theory and wokeness, critical social justice, there is this idea of whiteness. She wants to include the Jews in with the whites, with the Europeans. She wants to keep them out of a position of victimhood. That's what this is, in my estimation. And it's kind of gross, right? It's kind of gross. Now, when she goes on to Stephen Colbert to make an apology, more of a sorry, not sorry, She talks about skin color, the exact opposite of what critical race theory says, right? Let's go ahead and look at that clip.
As a black person, I think of race as being something that I can see. So I see you and I know what race you are. And the discussion was about how I felt about that. I felt that it was really more about man's inhumanity to man and how horrible people can be to people. And
all right, so as you see here, she goes against what most of her colleagues are going to say in the media. Right? To her, race is skin deep. Race is about your skin color. And certainly she does have a different experience with race in the United States in a predominantly white country, and as a black person, right? Because it's something that is visual. It's immediate. You know that this is someone from a different race or a different ethnicity. But in her mind, she's actually going against wokeism. She's actually going against what critical race theory says, that race is simply a social construct. She's saying race is the color of your skin. That is her experience. But what's interesting is what she has done here is she has diminished race, the exact opposite of what you usually see, which is so bizarre to me. I mean, because they're the Jews? Where's that coming from? She's taking a very hot topic that gets just pounded down our throats every single day, everywhere in our institutions, at work, at school, in the media, just constantly race, politics everywhere. And she's actually doing the opposite thing here with the Jewish people. And she's saying, no, we're going to remove the idea of race. And this is just about the horrors of humanity and against humanity, the evils that are there. Well, what was slavery? That wasn't the horrors of humanity of one group against another? It's just a very odd thing. She's diminishing the role of race and what race means in the Holocaust. Now, finishing up with Whoopi here, I just want you to listen to Stephen Colbert. This is hilarious. It's sad, but it's hilarious. I want you to listen to his explanation about race. See if you've heard these phrases and these words before.
It seems to me that whiteness is a construct created by colonial powers during the beginning of colonial imperialist era in order to exploit other people, and that they could apply it to all different kinds of people, that idea of race.
What is so hilarious here is listen to the words that he's using. You think 3 years ago, 5 minutes ago, Stephen Colbert would have been talking with those phrases about whiteness and colonialism? No, he wouldn't. But look at what's happening here. This goes right back to my point that and maybe this happens in civilization over and over again. I don't know. But it didn't used to be that the academy created culture this much, but it does now. This is where culture comes from. It comes from the academy. He's obviously gone in, read up on these things, using the proper terminology, social construction and whiteness and colonialism and imperialism, right? And then he wants to use this. What is he? He's talking like an academic. Why? Because the flow of language does not come from the media. It comes from the academy. And Stephen Colbert is basically wanting to be a part of that. He's saying, look, I am giving the academy kudos. This is an academic subject, as if Whoopi is talking about anything to do with an academic subject of race. She's not. But man, I'm going to earn my stripes here with my colleagues in the media and in academia, and I'm going to go over some woke phrases here that 5 minutes ago I didn't know. It's so disingenuous. It's so disingenuous. It is simply repeating what that person hears. It is conversion and then turning around and repeating the lines. It's a corruption of what this podcast often calls the DBR, right? It's taking the word to the next person, turning and bringing it to the next person, and evangelizing the religion of academia. Now, contrary to this, the exact opposite way to use race is Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. And I want you to look at this short clip here from him describing what's going on with the trucker convoy against the COVID mandates in Canada.
Over the past few days, Canadians were shocked and frankly disgusted by the behavior displayed by some people protesting in our nation's capital. I want to be very clear. We are not...
Notice he says some people. He's going to splice his words here.
Intimidated by those who hurl insults and abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags.
Okay, so let's talk about this just real quick. So what do we see here? Yeah, there were a few individuals, very few individuals, that were involved in perhaps stealing from food from the homeless, perhaps flying some Confederate flags. And there was a desecration of a memorial. Who knows how that happened or what was going on there. But notice how he said some people. What he's trying to do is amplify race, right? He's talking about the Confederate flags and perhaps some other symbolism symbols that a very few small group of people, bad apples that you're going to find in every group, are displaying and manifesting. And yet he wants to basically throw this around the neck of the entire trucker convoy and talk about shocking and disgusting. Well, those things from those very few people are, but so is this type of information, this type of silver-tongued parsing and splitting of words and phrases is ridiculous. What he is trying to do, and you've seen this in the media since he came out with this, they have tried to say that everyone is a racist. If you are involved with the trucker convoy, this is where it always goes. If you're involved with the trucker convoy, if you're supporting it, you must be a racist. It's always the same thing. And notice how he also said desecrating things and stealing food and intimidating small businesses. What was he doing during the Black Lives Matter protests, right? That was happening all over the place, but he never said a word about that. So it's very disingenuous what he's saying. He's doing the exact opposite of what Whoopi Goldberg did, right? Whoopi Goldberg, in order to get through her agenda of excluding certain groups from being a part of intersectionality, a part of the groups of victimhood, of minority, she erases race in that case because it benefits her narrative. And here Justin Trudeau is doing the exact opposite. He is amplifying it way beyond what is happening here with this trucker convoy. So you can see the Mott and Bailey that happens with race all the time and how it's discussed. What is race? Because that is the new acceptable definition of race, is that it is a social construct. So why is Whoopi Goldberg, a woman of the left, a black woman, saying that it is skin deep? And what is the agenda of the Prime Minister of Canada in amplifying the message of racism when he has an agenda that is against the trucker convoy? We are awash in race in our culture, in especially in the United States and Canada. And it's getting around to the whole world. It is wokeness, critical social justice is a U.S. phenomenon. but it is spreading very, very quickly globally. That's another episode that we're going to be doing very quickly here. We're going to hear these same types of arguments used when the agenda fits the narrative, right? When the circumstance fits the narrative all over the globe, as there's going to be a split, as far as I can tell. There's beginning to be a split, not just from left and right, liberal, conservative. It's not that. It's not that at all. It is the religion of academia. It is wokeness. It is a new religion, a new ideology, a new philosophy with leftist Marxist roots, and new organizations that are following these Marxist roots and in collaboration with these organizations in the United States. As you listen to the news, as you read the news, as you watch the news, not my recommendation, be sensitive to how race is used as a bully pulpit, or is it being diminished? And it's going to tell you very quickly what the agenda is, what the narrative is that is attempting to be pushed.